The second I heard that metal door slam behind me, I knew something was off. No click, no, see you tomorrow. Just the dead weight of silence and that hollow echo you only hear when you're well and truly screwed. I was still at my workstation, finishing notes from the day's diagnostics when it hit me. The guys were gone. And I hadn't seen my phone since lunch. Name's Ash. I'm 32. I live just outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been working at this auto tech shop for a little over 6 months. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The shop was dark now. They'd shut the lights off from the breaker panel in the back. I walked to the door, yanked the handle, nothing. Tried the back entrance. Same deal. They'd locked me in like a damn animal. I stood there, breathing hard, feeling the cold creep in through the concrete floor. It was late February and the insulation in that place was trash. I checked the locker room. Empty. Break room fridge light was off. My backpack, gone, along with my phone, keys, and jacket. I remember Daryl laughing earlier, something about teaching a lesson. I'd thought it was just posturing. Now I knew better. This was about Mitch. Mitch, the team lead, who'd stood up during the morning presentation and pitched my ECU rebuild process like it was his. I called him on it, in front of the shop manager, in front of the client. Calm, but direct. That's not your code. I wrote that sequence for the Volvo batch. I didn't raise my voice, didn't curse, but Mitch looked like I'd stabbed him in the chest. I guess I wasn't supposed to speak. By the time lunch rolled around, things were tense. Daryl and Kenny, Mitch's little hype crew, kept making jokes, loud enough for me to hear. Hope Ash didn't lose his voice. Don't want to get sent to HR for having ideas. Crap like that. I let it slide, thought they'd cool off. Instead, they waited. Waited until I was distracted, snatched my gear, and ghosted out of there. Left me locked in with the lifts down and the temp dropping fast. This wasn't a prank. This was a warning. I paced the shop floor, trying to keep warm. That's when I noticed something. Mitch's diagnostic station, top left corner near Bay 4, still had his login session open. Rookie move. He never leaves it up. I stood in front of the screen for a solid minute, not saying a word. Then I cracked my knuckles, pulled my USB toolkit from my belt, and slid it into the port. They picked the wrong guy to freeze out. I ran a system sweep and started poking around. Mitch had his workstation linked to the shop's cloud console. Like he always bragged, full pipeline visibility. Lucky for me, that meant his shared folders, message logs, and admin backend were all wide open. I dropped into root access like muscle memory. This wasn't new to me. Before this gig, I was doing systems consulting, real stuff, setting up telemetry rigs for race teams, fine-tuning ECUs for cars that cost more than some houses. My name was on projects that hit podiums, but my last shop went toxic fast. Owners started pocketing vendor kickbacks, turning a blind eye while one of the leads sold client data. I called it out and suddenly I was disruptive. Had to walk before they buried me in legal crap. Thought I was done with all that. Came here thinking I'd just put my head down, do clean work, collect a check. No politics, no mess. But Mitch and his little band made that impossible. His desktop had a folder labeled Team Chat Archive. Inside was a local cache from a Slack-style app, off-network, private server. Should have needed credentials, but Mitch had the auto-login toggle enabled. Idiot. I opened it and froze. First message I saw was from Daryl. Ash still thinks he's getting fast-tracked? Bro's living in fantasy land. Then Mitch chimed in. Let him dream. Already told HR he's falling behind on warranty clears. Kenny followed up. Flood him this week. Got 5 Dodge recalls sitting in queue. He'll be buried by Wednesday. That wasn't just trash talk. That was planned sabotage. I scrolled, found more. Screenshots of my builds, mocking comments. Look how he overlogs every damn sensor, Mitch wrote once. Trying to impress someone? Ain't us. One thread detailed how they had rerouted parts orders to delay my projects. Another had Daryl bragging about deleting my draft on the client intranet. I didn't get angry right away. It was slower than that, like ice spreading through a cracked radiator. Silent, steady, inevitable. They weren't just trying to make me quit. They were erasing my work, stealing it, and laughing while they did. I minimized the window, plugged in my old freelance USB, a black aluminum drive I used to call my scalpel, loaded with portable forensic tools, scripts, and an auto-sync tree that dated back 5 years. The second it clicked in, I kicked off a mirror dump of Mitch's logs. File names, timestamps, metadata. I wanted everything. I went back into the chat app and started screenshotting every message thread, every photo, every emoji reaction. Organized them by date and topic: sabotage, theft, manipulation. I pulled message headers too, so they couldn't claim fakes later. The worst part, it was never about performance. They knew I could outwork and outthink them. That was the threat. I opened the shop's internal ticket queue and saw a list of fake flags tied to my profile: slow close time, missing part scans, unconfirmed diagnostics, all garbage. I ran cross-checks against completed logs. Most of those jobs had been signed off without issue. The flags were added after submission. I tagged them all. Every time my name showed up with a bogus complaint or retraining required note, I saved it. Mitch had even added personal comments in a couple reviews. Ash lacks team collaboration. Disruptive in meetings. Disruptive how? By not letting him pitch my work as his. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't pacing. I was focused, quiet, controlled, like flipping into low gear before a tight curve. This wasn't just workplace crap. This was character assassination, and I knew damn well how this game ended if I didn't flip the table. So I kept going. Found backup logs, call transcripts, vendor notes, anywhere Mitch had touched or edited something tied to me. Even pulled error logs showing when they manually reassigned service tickets under my name and then rerouted the final sign-off to Kenny or Daryl. They were building a fake record to block my promotion. Sabotaging the only thing I came here to do: work. I created a folder called Foundation and dumped everything into it. Then I backed it up twice, once to my drive, once to an encrypted cloud folder under a burner account I used back in the race days. By the time I looked up, the wall clock said just past midnight. I cracked my neck, pulled off my gloves, and started the next sweep. They wanted me silent? Nah. They just gave me a reason to speak. The next sweep went deeper. System invoices, purchase orders, internal ledger trails. Stuff I wasn't even supposed to access, but Mitch's credentials were like a master key. Half the files were clean, the other half reeked. I started noticing patterns right away. Duplicate invoice numbers, mismatched totals, parts listed twice under different vendors. One job billed for a full ECU replacement when all we'd done was a firmware flash. Another had a part number that didn't even exist in our supplier catalog. At first I figured it was sloppy accounting. Then I found the payment redirects. Hidden deep in the vendor registry was a name that didn't belong: MK Consulting. Looked official at a glance, but the linked address stopped me cold. I recognized it. It was Mitch's, his home address. I opened a separate spreadsheet, tracing every transaction that funneled through MK Consulting. Over 20 invoices in 2 months. Payments cleared. Not small stuff either. 500 here, 900 there. All under the radar. Enough to add up quick. That's when the full picture started forming. They weren't just screwing with me. They were robbing everyone. The shop, the clients, the suppliers. Straight up fraud. I leaned back from the monitor and rubbed my face, trying to process it. My breath came out white. The heat had dropped to nothing. Somewhere outside, a semi roared down the highway, headlights flashing through the shop windows like a strobe. I'd seen plenty of garbage in my time. Ego fights, data theft, rigged competitions. But this was different. This was felony level. I started organizing it all. In one folder, I built a timeline. Forged orders, fake billing codes, falsified client reports. Cross-referenced the invoice IDs with timestamps and Mitch's logins. Every click, every upload, every edit tied right back to him or one of his guys. My stomach twisted as I realized how deep it went. Daryl had signed off on parts received for shipments that never came. Kenny had approved refunds to customers that were never processed. The cash just vanished into that MK Consulting sinkhole. I pulled up one client's profile, a small towing company that brought in their fleet for diagnostics last month. They'd been charged twice for the same service, once to our system, once to MK. I scrolled the receipts, reading the signature line, Mitch's initials, sloppy as hell. That's when I heard it, a soft metallic rattle, the sound of a key turning in the back service door. My hands froze over the keyboard. I killed the monitor light and crouched behind the workstation, heart pounding. I could hear boots on the tile, slow and steady, heading my way. The cold air shifted as the door closed again. I waited. 1 second, 2, 10. Then a voice called softly. Hello? Someone down here? Not Mitch, not Daryl or Kenny. Female voice. Calm even. I stood up slowly. Yeah, I said, keeping my tone low. Who's there? A flashlight beam cut through the dark, landing on my face. Jesus, she muttered, lowering it. Ash, right? I'm Val, IT support. I'd seen her around, dark hair pulled tight, always carrying a laptop. Worked odd hours, mostly in the back office. She frowned. Why are you still here? I saw terminal activity on Bay 4's station. Thought it was a glitch. I could have lied. Said I was running maintenance. But there was something about her, like she already knew this wasn't routine. I got locked in, I said, by Mitch's crew. Her eyebrows lifted. Locked in? Seriously? Yeah, took my phone. Thought they'd be cute about it. She stepped closer, scanning the screen I'd just turned off. So what are you doing? I hesitated, then took a breath, finding out how bad it really is. Bad as in theft, fraud, faked invoices. Mitch has been rerouting payments through a fake vendor tied to his house. Her flashlight flicked to the screen, then back at me. You sure? I've got the logs, I said, turning the monitor back on. Look, here, MK Consulting. See the address line? She leaned in, squinting. Holy hell, that's his home on Riverbrook. Yeah, and he's been using company resources to push fake orders. Val stared for a long second. You realize what you're sitting on, right? Yeah, I said. Enough to sink him. Maybe the shop too. She let out a low whistle. You planning to report it? I'm planning to survive the night first. She nodded, jaw tight. Okay, then you didn't see me here. I was never down this hallway. Why? I asked. Because if they find out I helped you, they'll can me too. She started backing up, then stopped. You said they locked you in? Yeah. Stay put. I'll make sure no one logs remote access while you're digging. Keep it clean. No trace. You can do that? She gave a half smirk. I do IT, remember? Then she turned toward the back door, her light flicking across the cold floor. If you're gonna pull this thread, she said over her shoulder, don't stop halfway. And she was gone. I stared at the empty doorway, then turned back to the screen. The data was still open, waiting. My hands hovered over the keyboard, and all I could think was, if I go through with this, there's no walking it back. I hit enter. The export began. The export bar ticked across the screen, slow but steady. I was halfway through cataloging the third invoice batch when the side door clicked open again. Val stepped back in, this time with her laptop and a thermos. She shut the door behind her without a word and walked straight to Bay 4, dragging a stool over with her boot. I clocked out. No trace I was ever logged in, she said. Still want to dig? Yeah, I said. You up for it? She sat, cracked her knuckles. Let's go ruin a few careers. I handed her one of the USB drives. She plugged it into her system, then ran a few command lines that shot over my head. She had access I didn't. Deeper tunnels into user archives, internal backups, archived reports. And she moved like she'd done this before. Just out of curiosity, I asked. Why are you helping me? She didn't look up. 6 months ago, I was working diagnostics too. Got pulled onto the tech bay when the last guy quit. Mitch didn't like that I knew more than him. What happened? I corrected a torque spec he gave the client. Politely, in front of the shop manager, her mouth twisted. Next day I was reassigned. IT desk. Performance mismatch was the official reason. You believe that? I did. Every damn word of it. We didn't waste time on sympathy. We just worked. Her admin login plus my diagnostics credentials meant full access. Historical records, deleted performance reviews, scrubbed email threads. We dug up exit surveys from former techs who'd called out the same exact pattern. Credit stolen, complaints ignored, HR meetings that mysteriously never got logged. I remember this guy, Val muttered, clicking open one file. Caleb, left 8 months ago. Called Mitch a thief to his face. Next day he no-called, no-showed, and never came back, the survey said. Toxic Boys Club. No room for growth unless you kiss the right ass. Final status. Voluntary resignation. Val scoffed. Yeah, right. We kept digging. She found call logs routed through Mitch's desk phone, showing backdated service appointments. Some scheduled after the car was already out the door. GPS pings didn't match the reports. The guys were billing time they weren't even on site for. I organized everything. Call logs, billing flags, staff turnover, into timelines and folders. Val handled the data pulls. I named the drives Redline A and Redline B. When one filled, I started another. Around 3:30 a.m., she leaned back and sighed. All right, we've been in long enough. I'm scrubbing the trail. She wiped the audit logs from the active session, cleared IP traces, and buried our entry point behind a spoofed test routine. Then she pulled the USB, zipped up her hoodie, and looked me dead in the eye. If you're gonna burn the house down, she said, make sure you're not standing inside it. Then she was gone again, just like that. No handshake, no goodbye. I stared at the screen. Still more to go. I moved everything Val pulled into a secure archive, broke it down by category, and built a master doc to map all of it. The last few logs were dense, layers of internal memos, onboarding docs, and correspondence folders. I didn't expect much from the HR junk, but then I saw it. An email chain. Header read, subject, state contract requirements, compliance confirmation. The first line stopped me cold. We need a diversity hire on the books for the state contract. Find someone who won't make waves. The reply hit even harder. I've got a guy, decent background, name's Ash. Clean, quiet, shouldn't be a problem. Sender, Mitch. Recipient, Stan, the shop owner. My mouth went dry. They hadn't hired me for my resume. They hadn't cared about my skill set. I was a checkbox, a prop, someone they could point to during audits and say, look, we're inclusive, as long as I stayed in line. Everything I'd built here, every win, every fix, every late night, they'd planned to bury it from day one. I copied the full email chain and added it to the top of the archive. Bold red header, hire fraud, owner level. Then I sat back and let the drive finish sinking. The air in the shop was colder than before, but I didn't feel it anymore. The truth was finally in my hands, and it wasn't going anywhere. I went back to the master archive and created a new folder at the top level. Named it Engine Out. Not subtle, but clear. Inside, I stacked everything. Every fake invoice, every sabotage ticket, every stolen message thread. Val's GPS logs, the call records, the token hire email chain. I even dropped in a README file with a full breakdown of how each piece connected. Took me about 20 minutes to compress it, encrypt it, and double-check the contents. Then I uploaded a backup to a secured cloud link and sent a single message to Val's secure channel. Subject, Engine Out, text, final package attached. Let me know if you see gaps. 5 minutes later, she wrote back, now that's a kill shot. That was it. No emoji, no cheering, just the kind of message you send when something serious lands. I stared at that line longer than I should have, because that's when it really hit me. This wasn't about proving I was right. That moment was gone. This was about breaking the wheel they'd tried to trap me in. Every excuse, every shut door, every smug little smile from Mitch when I got reassigned. All of it came from one thing. They thought I'd stay quiet because I should stay quiet. I was their hire with no voice, their background prop. Not anymore. I logged out, unmounted the drive, and slipped it into the inner pocket of my work vest. The kind you use for spark plugs or small torque bits. It felt heavier than any of those. The shop lights blinked on at exactly 6. I was still sitting on the workbench in Bay 4, arms crossed, engine oil smudged on my sleeves. USB drive zipped up in my vest pocket. I didn't flinch when the front door creaked open. Mitch strutted in first, keys dangling from one hand like a joke. Daryl and Kenny flanked him, still wearing yesterday's uniforms. They were grinning like a bunch of frat boys after a prank. "It's sleep good, Ash," Mitch said, that same smug drawl he always used when he thought he was being clever. "Maybe next time you'll watch your mouth." I gave a slow nod, hopped off the bench. "Yeah," I said. "I learned a lot." That made them laugh. Daryl elbowed Kenny, who muttered something under his breath about me, probably crying in the corner. Mitch stepped in closer, face all puffed up with pride. "You know," he said, "it's not personal. Sometimes guys like you just need a little reminder. Learn your place, take the L, move on." I stared him straight in the eye. "You want an apology?" He smiled wide, fake as hell. "That'd be a start. For embarrassing me in front of the client? Yeah, let's hear it." I shrugged like I didn't care. "Sure," I said. "Sorry you're so threatened by someone who actually knows what they're doing." Their smiles dropped all at once, like someone yanked the power. Mitch's jaw clenched. "What did you do last night?" I dusted off my hands and nodded toward his jacket. "You should check your inbox." Right on cue, Mitch's phone buzzed. Not just once. Rapid bursts, back to back. His hand flew to his pocket. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen. Froze. Daryl's buzzed next, then Kenny's. Kenny looked at his screen and let out a low, "Shit." Daryl's face went pale. "Dude," he muttered, showing his phone to Mitch. "This got sent to the whole board. Clients too." Mitch didn't speak. His thumb was still frozen on the screen. I stepped past them, walked toward the break room, calm as hell. Behind me, Mitch finally snapped out of it. "What the hell is this?" he barked. I didn't turn around. "It's called evidence. Thought you'd recognize it since your name's on most of it." "You had no right, neither did you," I said, loud enough for all three of them to hear. "But don't worry. I sent everything to Stan, HR, legal. Hell, even the customer service team. "You little punk," Kenny spat. "You think this is gonna go the way you want?" I turned back, slow and steady. "No, I know it will. You know why? Because the only thing worse than being a thief," I nodded at Mitch, "is being a dumb one." Daryl opened his mouth, but whatever he was about to say got lost in the ping of another message. I watched them stare at their phones like they were holding live grenades. Then I walked into the break room, grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, and popped the cap. None of them followed me. For the first time in 6 months, the shop was quiet. Less than 2 hours after I walked out of that break room, I got a text from HR. "Stan wants you in the boardroom. Now." They didn't even try to soften it. "No, please, no, bring your notes. Just get here." When I walked into that glass-walled conference room, the tension hit like smog. Owner was there. Stan, arms crossed, jaw locked. 4 board members were already seated, notepad stacks in front of them. Legal team to the left, stone-faced. A guy from finance I'd never met. One of the regional VPs from corporate, and Val, sitting calm at the far end, typing something on her laptop like she'd been waiting all year for this. Mitch stood near the whiteboard, pacing slow. Daryl and Kenny were slumped in 2 chairs on the side, trying to look invisible. "Sit," Stan barked, not even looking at me. "We're not wasting time." I pulled out a chair beside Val. She didn't say anything, just gave a single nod. Stan started. "This morning, every person on this board, and every one of our fleet clients, got a file dump from an employee named Ash." He looked directly at me now. "That you?" "Yeah," I said, loud and steady. "And it's real? All of it?" Before he could speak again, Mitch jumped in. "Okay, look, this is all blown way out of proportion. I don't know what Ash thinks he saw, but it's all just back-end clutter, misfiled stuff, miscommunications." Stan held up a hand. "We'll hear both sides, but let's be clear. These aren't typos. These are fraud accusations, theft, system abuse." Mitch took a step forward. "We had a high-stress quarter. Deadlines, team conflicts. Sometimes things fall through the cracks." Val didn't even look up. "Spare us the noise." Everyone turned. She clicked one key and mirrored her screen to the boardroom TV. "Here's what actually fell through the cracks," she said. 3 months of buried logs, modified service records, deleted exit surveys, GPS tracking mismatches on company vans, and a shell account named MK Consulting, routing client payments to a residential address. She paused. "Mitch's address." I could see sweat building under Mitch's collar. Val kept going, calm as hell. "I verified the logs myself. I hold admin access. These changes weren't accidents. They were coordinated actions, time-stamped and traceable." Stan turned to me. "Anything else?" I opened my own folder and pushed it forward. Performance reviews. All rigged. I pulled ticket metadata, showing my diagnostics were reassigned without notice. Chat logs from Mitch's side group show plans to overload my queue, so I couldn't finish my builds in time for promotion review. Mitch threw up his hands. "You were slow. We had to pick up your slack." Val cut in, her tone flat. "His completion rate was second only to yours, until you tanked it." Legal chimed in. "Do we have proof of the locking incident?" Val clicked again. A security cam screenshot filled the screen. Grainy, but clear. Me trapped inside the shop. Door closed. Mitch and Daryl walking out, laughing. Stan's face didn't change, but his eyes hardened. Finance guy leaned in. "And the client billing?" I nodded. The same services were billed twice, once through company books, once through MK. Daryl marked parts received that never shipped. Kenny signed off on refund checks that vanished. I've got copies of the check numbers and the service dates. Stan looked at Mitch. "You got anything to say that doesn't make this worse?" Mitch's voice cracked. We were under pressure. The shop was bleeding. I kept it moving. I could feel the room watching him unravel. Then he snapped. He pointed straight at me and shouted. He was never supposed to be more than a damn tech monkey. Dead silence. I watched Stan's jaw tighten. Legal was already writing. Nobody moved. Even Kenny flinched. Mitch kept going, like he could talk his way out of a gunshot. "You brought him in to make the state contract happy. He wasn't supposed to stir up shit. He wasn't supposed to—" "Enough," Stan said, voice sharp as a blade. Then he turned to me. "Ash, what would you want to see happen here?" I didn't answer yet, because I wasn't done. Stan didn't blink. He looked straight at me and asked, "What would you want to see happen here?" I kept my voice steady. 3 things. First, fire everyone involved. Mitch, Daryl, Kenny. They don't belong here. Mitch scoffed like I was bluffing. I didn't even look at him. Second, reopen every project from the last 12 months. I want proper credit given where it's due. If my work was used, my name goes on it. I saw a couple board members nod. The legal team kept writing. And third, I said, strip oversight from this little buddy system Mitch built. Diagnostics, tuning, assignments, all of it goes under neutral operations. No more boys' club. Stan leaned back, arms crossed, chewing on it. Then I added one more. And I want Mitch's job. Team lead, diagnostics. The room went still, not a sound. Even Val looked over like, okay. I wasn't asking for a raise. I wasn't asking for a thank you. I was claiming the spot I'd already earned, with proof in hand. One of the board members finally broke the silence. Do you even have the background for that role? Val didn't miss a beat. He's more qualified than anyone on that floor. Stan looked to her. You verified that? I already forwarded his certs and contracts from previous clients, she said. ECU specialist, vendor-level tuning experience, built his own diagnostic scripts, check your inbox. Stan opened his tablet and started scrolling. Another exec leaned over to look. Less than a minute later, Stan set it down. Interim lead, he said, effective immediately pending the full audit. I nodded once. Fine by me? Then he turned to Mitch. You're done. All three of you. What? Mitch stepped forward. You're really taking his word over mine? We're taking the evidence over your temper tantrum, Stan snapped. Pack your things. HR will escort you out. Kenny stood up fast. I didn't sign off on half of that stuff. You ran backup on it, Val cut in. You're in the logs. Daryl didn't even bother speaking. He already knew it was over. Security showed up 5 minutes later. No drama, just a quiet knock and a clipboard. I sat still and watched as the three of them were walked out. Boxes in their arms, eyes down, no more smug smiles. Mitch looked at me one last time. I gave him nothing, no words, no gloating. Just the same silence they tried to bury me with. When the door closed behind them, I finally exhaled. Not relief that they were gone, relief that I was still here. Stan stood up. You'll have temporary admin access starting today, he said. Make it count. I nodded. I will. Val looked over at me as everyone else filtered out. She gave the smallest smirk. Well, she said, that escalated? Yeah, I said. About time it did. And for the first time since I walked into that place 6 months ago, I felt like I belonged in the room. 1 month later, I stood in what used to be Mitch's office. Door gone, walls bare, whiteboard scrubbed clean. I'd stripped it down to nothing. No more corner desk, no locked file cabinets, no smug little plaque that said Team Lead, Diagnostics. I turned it into an open space, put in 2 desks, a build station, and a shared monitor that showed the live project queue for everyone to see. No secrets, no silos. I brought in new hires, 3 of them. A tech from a diesel shop in Kansas. A woman fresh out of trade school who asked better questions in her first interview than Kenny had in 6 months. And a guy who used to work parts inventory, sharp as hell with code. Didn't care what their resumes looked like. I cared if they were hungry and honest. Val helped me set the whole thing up. She'd officially joined as part of the advisory group we pitched to the board. We called it deadweight clearance. Yeah, a little on the nose, but everyone knew what it meant. Clean shop, clean team. No more Mitch's hiding behind the word leader. First thing I rewrote was the training manual. Second thing, access rules. Every build file, every software update, every script I'd ever written got pushed to the shared drive. Team-wide access. If someone left, their notes didn't disappear with them. People started trusting each other again. You could feel it in the air. Clients noticed too. We weren't just getting jobs done faster. We were getting them done cleaner. Fewer returns, better reviews. One of the fleet clients we nearly lost came back with a contract double the size. Said we were the only shop that actually explained the work without the BS. The diversity hire they thought would stay quiet. That guy was now running the best numbers the department had ever seen. Not bad for a token tech. I didn't spend time thinking about Mitch, but his name came up now and then. Last I heard, he was fighting criminal charges. Some combo of wire fraud, embezzlement, falsifying business records. Real ugly stuff. Nobody would touch him. Word spreads fast in this business. Faster than oil on concrete. Daryl and Kenny faded off even faster. One tried to apply at a warehouse nearby. Didn't last a week. The other, I think, left the state. No one missed them. Every now and then, Val would stop by the floor with an energy drink in hand and lean on the doorframe. You know, she said one day, we actually built something here. I looked around. The new crew was laughing over a build misfire. Someone had accidentally reverse mapped a sensor range. They were fixing it together. Yeah, I said, and nobody's got to lie to keep it running. She tapped the doorframe twice. That's how it should be. And she was right. Some nights after the floor clears out and the hum of the lifts dies down, I sit at the edge of Bay 4, same spot I froze my ass off that night, and I think about how close I came to walking away. I still remember it clear, sitting in that cold concrete shop with no phone, no jacket, no way out, thinking maybe I was finished, that I'd been beat again by the same kind of guys who pushed me out of my last gig, and then something snapped. Not wild, not loud, just quiet, like a switch flipping. I realized nobody was coming to fix it for me. Not the company, not HR, not the clients. I'd never get anything unless I took it back, piece by piece, wire by wire, with the same patience I used to rebuild blown engines from nothing. It wasn't about revenge. I didn't do it to watch anyone burn. I did it so the next guy who walked in with a decent resume and a head full of skill wouldn't get buried under the same pile of lies. Every week now, I sit with the new recruits. Doesn't matter if they're 20 or 50, fresh or seasoned. I make time. I ask what they need, what's in their way, what part of the system still sucks. I listen, because nobody ever did that for me. The shop's running better than it ever has. Projects fly through diagnostics. Clients trust our word again. That bid for the big fleet contract, we landed it. Not because we smiled in the right meetings, because we delivered results nobody could argue with. We stopped being a shop that hides things. Now we show our work, and we own it. That USB drive I used, it's still with me, locked in a fireproof safe in the back corner of my office. Every once in a while, I pull it out just to remind myself what I built, what they tried to bury, what I pulled out of the wreckage. Sometimes the best way to fight back isn't yelling or throwing punches.